Hi, I'm Tristan, and my project's on liability issues within disaster. So, liability is basically just referring to who's at fault. Liability is the result of negligence during a disaster. It comes from a person acting or failing to act unreasonably, which in turn is the legal cause of an injury to a person or property. Within disasters, liability is more often from failure to do specific governmental duties or failure to perform duties that are emergency management responsibilities. Liability usually falls on the government during or after a disaster because of failure to train or supervise emergency management workers. Causes of liability are usually failure to follow a plan, poor choices, poor planning, and a bad emergency response, an incident commander's lack of wisdom, failure to comply with legal duties, or violation of law. And this can be used as proof in civil suits fighting over personal injury or wrongful death. Government immunity from liability. Certain units of government are granted immunity from legal liability for some of their activities. Emergency responders that are employed by the government are provided immunity and defenses by disaster response statutes and common law. State legislatures have incorporated laws for liability immunities for acts within an employee's scope of employment. Decision-making by government executives receive more specific immunity provisions. Some states have created more blanket immunity provisions that cover a variety of different government employees. These can include the state, political subdivisions, or local government entities. Emergency planning and response gets immunity from tort liability. Liability within the planning process. Liability can result from failure to prepare for a mandated plan. An example of this involved the Nuclear Regulatory Commission failing to prepare a mandated plan by its own rules. The court found that the agency employee's choice was a failure to follow safety standards, resulting in a lack of immunity. Liability can also result from a plan existing but being negligently drafted, or a failure to follow the plan in the wake of an emergency will result in liability. Preventing liability. With regard to volunteers, the best way to prevent a liability issue is properly integrating them into the emergency response organization. There are multiple ways of doing this, including establishing solid relationships with major volunteer groups prior to a crisis. Volunteer organizations should be included in planning, training, and exercises. Roles should be specifically defined in the emergency operations plan. Legal liability becoming a problem. Some government officials believe the possibility of litigation in crisis will lessen the likelihood of people wanting to become volunteers. State laws leave volunteers more liable than gross negligence. Sometimes punitive damages may not be rewarded against a volunteer acting within their responsibilities to a nonprofit organization.